Hello, how are you doing? It's me. I'm back with another bullying in the NHS video. It's been a long time since I've only done two. This will be the third. It's been a long time, and I think these things are quite hard to talk about, and that's one reason. And another reason is that it's serious, and I don't particularly like being serious, or rather I do like being serious, but it's more difficult. So there you go, there's a bit of psychology on me there. This one's a bit different. It's not an event, it's more a period of time that I spent working in the NHS, which was absolutely terrible, and there's been a lot of them over the years, but this is one of the more markedly bad ones. So I will start, and just to say, I have told this story before at what was called a Schwartz round, which is where people reflect to a sort of small group in a confidential way about experience they've had, and the subject was, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was essentially bullying or something about how you've experienced difficult times in the workplace, something like that. So for about 2 years I worked on a particular ward, and it was very strict. The manager ran the place like a sort of a military campaign. This particular ward did give good care to its patients, I think. Definitely the staff worked very hard, and they were very efficient, and yeah, I think standards were high, but that was to the detriment of the staff working on the ward, or some of them, and definitely to me. Over this 2-year period, I ended up being off sick with depression for about, I would say, at least 6 months of that 2 years. So a quarter of the time I worked, I was actually off sick. In chunks. I think the longest was about 3 months, but lots of little bits and pieces here and there where I couldn't cope, and I think what this is about is a type of bullying, which is exclusion. Being a man in the NHS, and I suppose I'm talking as a nurse, but specifically as a nurse, you usually fall into one of two situations. Either you are loved, and you get this sort of, and this used to happen a lot when I worked in Essex years ago, where I'm from, and there'd be a sort of oh, it's nice to have a man on the ward sort of dynamic, or you get a we hate men, so we're going to treat you like shit. So you sort of tend to get one or the other, and usually, hopefully, there's enough of each type of female nurse on the ward to make your life bearable. To be honest, I'm a good-looking bloke. I'd say most of the time there's been more positives from working with women than negatives, but obviously on this occasion, the ward was very anti-male, I think, and there was some really quite unpleasant stuff going on. So I would be put with the easy patients at the end of the ward, the ones who are about to go home nearly every day. And ironically, because they were the easy patients, I actually hated it because it was so boring. There wasn't much to do for them. The time dragged. They weren't particularly ill. It was very standard stuff. Give medication, help them have a bit of a wash. That's it really. Monitor their observations, obviously see how well they are they ready to go home. So that was one negative thing. There was also the fact that the culture, and I suppose this is what I'm talking about very much, the culture of this ward was such that people didn't stop and chat. In fact, we weren't really allowed to stop. You would literally be told off. I remember chatting to someone for a couple of minutes while I was taking observations outside the side rooms and being told, how dare you, essentially, there's people down there working really hard. How dare you stand and talk to someone? You weren't allowed to sit down even when you're writing notes, which could take half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour to write all your notes of what you've been doing for the day. Everybody stood up and wrote them standing. And if you sat down to write them, you would get lots of sort of sarcastic comments. Oh, you're tired, are you? So all in all, a pretty unpleasant place to work. And then I had specific run-ins with one member of staff who basically, I think she was pretty unpleasant to, and saying she isn't really giving much away, because virtually all the nurses on the ward were female. She didn't like me, or I think maybe she did like me, and she didn't like the fact that I didn't particularly show any interest in her, and she was senior to me, so she made my life hell. Things like, I remember one day saying that I was having a lift home, and I must get off on time that day, so I did my handover, just about to leave, just on time, and said, oh, can you just go and do an ECG for this patient here? Clearly did that on purpose, because I said to her that I needed to go on time. I was given 60 hours work in 1 week once, including courses, a day's study or something. And this person came up to me and said very quietly, so no one else could hear, oh, I thought you'd go off sick because I gave you all those hours to work. So that's the sort of unpleasantness, really, and there are dozens and dozens of examples of that. So that's it. And feeling excluded, it's pretty awful. And I was depressed because of the place, and I was depressed anyway. But obviously the place I worked made it much harder. So when I went off sick with depression, I would come back to the ward, and the manager would treat me as if she didn't believe I was I'd been sick, or that it was real. Obviously, I said I had depression, and I think the culture of the ward was such that depression doesn't exist. You've just got to man up and or woman up and get on with it. On one occasion, my manager said to me, well, since you've been off, it's been a nightmare for everybody else because they've had to work so much harder to fill in for you, which is just what you need when you've been off with depression, isn't it? A little bit more guilt piled on your shoulders. Thank God I got out of there in the end. But I was so depressed. I remember it was winter and I had a long coat with a hood, and I would be so exhausted on my break often that you work 12 and a half hours, and an hour of that is a break, one break. And I would lie down in the changing room, in the cubicle behind the locked door with my hood up, and I'd just try and sleep for an hour, because there's nowhere to go to sleep, to be alone, to be away from other people. And that was pretty pathetic, really. But that's basically what I'd been brought down to. And that feeling that you go to work every day and nobody talks to you or shows any interest or laughs, cracks a joke, is pretty awful. So there you go. I don't think I need to say much more. I think it's pretty plain what I'm talking about here. And yeah, exclusion and not believing someone, really, not believing someone's ill, which ironically, for staff that work with ill people, this seems to be a common thread. If you take time off with sickness, you very often feel that you're not believed, and that people think you're taking the piss. And fair enough if you are, but as I've worked as a manager myself in the NHS, and you can't tell. It's impossible to tell. Someone, for all you know, you may think they're taking time off because they just don't want to be at work. They might have cancer. They don't necessarily have to tell you they've got cancer. Or they could tell you they've got cancer and they haven't, and there's nothing wrong with them. It's impossible to know either way. That's the point. And because you can't tell either way, I believe nobody should be assuming that people are taking the piss. Having said that, I did have a member of staff who took Christmas off every year for about 6 years with sickness, and the dates were almost identical. That made me think of it. So there you go. Thank you. And yeah, come back again and have a look at some of my other content, which is not anything like this. It's very, very silly usually. So yeah, thank you, and see you next time.